Okay, let's get started. With this webinar, we're going to go through the top 5 issues that affect law firm CRMs. My name's Simon McNidder. I'm from Promptr CRM. I've spent 30 years in professional services CRM, mostly in law, won 2 awards and written a book about CRM and the GDPR. Okay, let's get going. We are recording the slides, and the video in the presentation, so we will send it to you afterwards. Thank you. Okay. The number one gripe for anyone using a system is the data quality. If you're looking at a system, you need to bear in mind that that is going to be one of the big gripes that your users will say. If you've already got one, you know full well what I'm talking about. Okay, so some hints and tips. Now, step 1, the GDPR says that if you're going to keep data, keep it right. So don't keep everything. You don't have to have every single contact you've ever met in your system. And you don't have to have fields on the contacts all over the place. You need the bare essentials, okay, to make life easy for yourself. So if you don't use addresses because you don't send letters anymore, do you need to keep full addresses and then maintain those? There's masses of addresses in systems that I look at, and nobody's ever using it. Okay, so there's a tip. Remove some of the fields that you don't use. The other tip, of course, is remove contacts that you don't use or the companies associated to them or the organizations. So, for example, you could set up rules in your system that say, if this person doesn't hit any of our save these contact rules, let's archive them or delete them, things like that. So, for example, they haven't been added in the last 2, 3, 4 years. Nobody's done anything with them. They haven't interacted with any of our mail shots or events or newsletters or anything like that at all, and nobody knows them. What's the point of keeping those contacts? They're never going to work with them. You're not even going to send them stuff. A quick and easy way, delete them out of this system. Then there's less to manage, less to worry about. Your system might go a bit quicker as well. Okay. One thing that's always got good results for me is to do an annual spring clean of your database. So, for example, I was working with a 100-person law firm many, many years ago before I set up Promptr. I was just doing it as an independent consultant or contractor. There was 100 staff in this law firm. They had 101 lists, slightly more than the number of people in the firm. So we combined it all and then sent every single contact an email or a letter to say, look, your details are in our database. Are they right? Tell us what you're interested in so that we send you the right sort of stuff and keep you updated. And what are your issues in the next 12 months? We had an amazing response rate. Now, before the GDPR, these used to get sort of a 30% response rate, but then everybody started doing it and the response rate tailed off. But one of the examples from that is we had a response. Someone had said, look, I've been trying to sort out my father's probate for, I think, 9 years. It's an awful headache. Well, there's an easy, give it to the private client team, get it sorted out. And those sorts of things pay for any data cleaning updates. Okay. Another one is when you get contacts booking, subscribing to your newsletters or anything like that, ask for as little information as possible. Step-by-step approach. So, for example, when you're capturing people's details, what do you really need to know to get them onto your mailing list? Because that's what they're after, isn't it? So it's an email and a first name. You might want last name and company name. If you choose everything else, you've got a lot of ticking to do. Okay. Now, you're going to want to know what their interests are. Okay. So that can always be step 2. So you get the email and you've got the details. Fantastic. Confirmation email. Right, now tell us your details and you'll get the relevant information. Okay. Maintaining data. That's an absolute pain. Okay. Nobody's going to do it. Nobody wants to do it. I'll show you in a minute, in a slide, that some real life feedback from users when I've done user surveys of systems. So lawyers, in fact, I'll do it right now. There we go. I'll just read them out and then I'll come back to it. My clients aren't in it. Updating it isn't a 400 per hour job. And my best one I've ever heard is, I saw the records wrong. I thought I should update it, but didn't. Okay, that's what you're up against. Okay, now lawyers don't want to do it. They're busy doing fee earning work, and that's what they're appraised on. Okay, their PAs and secretaries don't really want to do it. Usually, a marketing assistant, that's their worst part of any kind of job. So, what's going to happen? Well, if you ask PAs and secretaries to do it, at the end of the year appraisal and things like that, or the PDR, whatever you like to call them, they're going to go, and someone's going to say, right, well, how much of the database did you update? And they're going to say, well, nothing. You asked me to do extra client work, and that was more important. So it didn't get done. And what you'll find is that there are duplicates in there. There are old contacts in there. Details go, there are typos in the details and things like that. It really is a pain for users. And all they do is they say, the data's wrong in here. I'm not going to use it. I'll use my own list in Excel or a Rolodex, things like that. So you need an approach to actively manage the data. From my hindsight, if you give it as one part of someone's job, it generally doesn't get done because there's always something else more important. So you might want to think about a specialist data person in the system. So if you buy a great big system, someone's got to manage it. Okay. Or you can buy a system that's fully managed and someone updates the details for you. Okay. There are tools that are available. You may hear signature scraping email pieces of software that you can bolt onto your CRM or are in it, for example. There are 4 off the top of my head that I can think of that deal with the legal market. And if you get in touch with me afterwards, I'll help you through and show you which ones those are. Okay. But what they do is when a contact emails you, they've got a signature at the bottom of their email. And mine would be Simon McNidder, CRM Headache Solver, Promptr, phone number, email, website, blah, 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 that sort of stuff. Well, the systems can look at that and go, right, that's not the same as the information in the database. The job title doesn't seem to be financial controller anymore. It's finance director, for example. Let's make the change. Someone's got to do it, because sometimes they don't make sense. Okay, so that's a really good idea. So anyone that's thinking of a CRM system and you haven't got signature scraping or something similar to that, archaic. Any CRM system that hasn't got that, don't bother with. And if yours hasn't got it, look for one that has, because the whole point of these systems are don't get people to use them, get a system to do it, and then get people to get the benefit from it. Now, there is a fall with signature scraping emails. If you imagine someone in HSBC moves job and moves to Barclays, for example, Barclays Bank, all the signature scraping emails and anything like that will do is activity will stop with the contact at HSBC and there'll be a brand new one at Barclays Bank and all the activity will start there. There you go. You've immediately got duplicates. So what are you going to do about it? That ends up being an eyeballing by somebody. And I would suggest you have a sort of a central person, a team, a subcontracted team, or part of the supplier with a CRM system to sort it out. Okay. So that's problem number 1, data. If you imagine a great big flash building with glass these days and all that sort of stuff, they just look wonderful. Nobody ever thinks about the foundations, and that's what the data is for your CRM system. Okay, these tools are only depositories or repositories for data. Okay, they take it in automatically or by contact or all the other means and then show it back out again. Complexity. The amount of times I've taken a system and removed fields, removed features and things like that, because no lawyer gets up in the morning and goes, oh, I want to use a database today. Nobody does. Not even me. So what you'll find is if a system has got, let's say, 100 buttons, that's probably far too complex and overwhelming for the majority of lawyers and PAs, secretaries, whatever you like to call them. Okay. Unless you've got a PhD in IT or you really like the technical aspects of these things, that is way too much for the majority of your users. It might only be okay for 5% of them. Well, if you had a system that was very simple, or you simplified your very expensive one, you've then got a system with 5 buttons rather than 100. If you had 100 buttons, it's probably 100 too many. It just becomes overwhelming. If you've got 5 buttons, 95% of your firm could probably use at least 4 of them. So you have to weigh it up. Do you want a really complex system that only a few people can use, or a very simple one that everybody can? So, tip for you: remove fields, columns. all that's data that you don't use, and then remove features until people start to squeak. And they go, oh, I was using that. We'll bring that one back again. So what you'll find is if you've got one of these great, big, massive systems that are probably costing you a fortune as well, you end up going right down. So it's a bit like buying a Ferrari. If you're into cars, you buy a Ferrari and you've actually just really de-specced it. So it's a sort of the functionality of a small hatchback. But everybody can jump in a hatchback and nip to the shops, take the kids to school, that sort of thing. Okay. Relationships. A CRM system is for monitoring relationships, seeing what's going on with all the contacts of the firm from around the firm and seeing who knows who. The amount of times, if your system isn't used, the amount of times they're just a flash Rolodex name and address list that really marketing only use to send newsletters and event invites, things like that. That's a real waste. CRM systems are expensive or can be expensive. That's a really expensive way of sending newsletters and mail shots and event invites. So what you've got to try and do is say, well, these systems are about monitoring what's going on with all the contacts, all the best contacts of the firm. So some tips for you. Rather than asking everybody to add their contact into the system and things like that, get the system to do these sorts of things automatically. So this signature scraping, or whatever you want to call them, type emails, software will look at emails, and if the contact isn't in there when they email in, it adds them. If your lawyer emails that person and they're not listed as knowing them, they get added as knowing them. And all sorts of things like that. If your lawyers actually add that they're going for a coffee or they've met someone networking or anything like that, the system automatically says, you know that person, rather than having the old-fashioned one where they go, yeah, I'll go click a button to say I know them. How archaic is that when a computer can do it? Okay. Now, the whole point of that is then it shows you things that are happening to your contacts. So imagine you've got a database, you've got all sorts of things happening, and you're a lawyer. Are you going to go into the database and find out what's going on with a contact? You're not, are you? Really, you're not. Who's going to search for a database that might or might not have information that might be relevant? So the good systems have got alerts on. The simplest way is a weekly alert, Monday morning. Here's all the activity that's happening to your contacts. So it shows you if any of your colleagues have been adding BD or anything like that to your contacts. It shows them if they've booked onto webinars and seminars, or it shows the lawyer if their contact has clicked on links in mail shots and alerts, things like that. The good ones as well also can give a heads up meeting, briefing note, the day before a meeting happens. Okay? And it's all there to really improve the relationships and impress the client. Because if you get a weekly alert and you're a lawyer and you go, hey, one of my contacts has booked onto an event, I'm going to phone them up or drop them an email and go, right, you've booked onto XYZ webinar. Why don't I join it as well? And I'll call you afterwards. And I'll answer any questions you've got. Or if they come to a seminar, I see you've booked onto our seminar in a month's time, or Christmas drinks or whatever. Why don't I come as well? Or I'll meet you. I can't make most of it, but I'll meet you before or afterwards and have a coffee, that sort of thing. Okay. One of the cracking benefits of having a pre-meeting email alert, and a real example from me, is one of the partners at one of my clients was about to meet the chairman of one of his clients. He'd received an alert to say that one of his colleagues in a different team in a different part of the office, so we would never have met them at a water cooler moment, for example, or a coffee machine moment. He'd been on a charity bike ride with that exact same client. Now, what a conversation starter. That really does boost the relationship of, oh, you met XYZ. How did your bike ride go? What a far better conversation starter. It really does impress the clients. Adoption of the system. Everybody who's got a CRM system moans about poor adoption. When it's brand new, everyone's excited and it's all new and shiny and everyone goes, oh, this is fantastic. And then it just sort of tails off as people stop bothering about it too much. what you're trying to think of with a CRM system for law firms, because lawyers are very different to salespeople or a recruitment agent who are just absolutely on the system. Anything that's not in the system didn't ever happen and they can't be appraised and things like that. Lawyers, very, very different. A CRM system isn't a have-to-use tool. The PMS, the billing, the time recording is, otherwise the bills don't go out. Okay. So what you've got to try and remember is that there's a lot of tech and automation that can make things happen so nobody has to lift a finger. What you're actually after is, rather than getting people to say, we're using it, is we're getting the benefit from it. And what can we do invisibly and by magic to make the system work? So I've got some icons on the bottom only because I'm going to go through them. I don't want to miss any. Okay, so adoption. Rather than getting people to go into a database, have a system or add on to your system that has alerts. The simplest is a Monday morning alert, the things that happened to your contacts last week and the things that are due to happen this week. You can have a meeting update to say, right, the person you're about to meet, this is who knows them and how well, and these are the recent things that have happened to them. You've also got gap analysis reports. So, for example, maybe you've got your best clients or your best work referrers or your best prospects. Not everyone's always on the ball with keeping in touch with them. So why not have an alert that pops in and says, this is being classified, this person has been classified as a key referrer, key work introducer, but nobody at all has got in touch with this person for the last 2, 3, 4 months, or whatever you want to track, whatever time scale. Yeah. And because your systems, all the good ones, linked with Outlook, it knows when any kind of email has gone to that person's email address. Okay. So you've just got a complete overview of what's going on with your contacts, because your CRM system should link with Outlook. If it doesn't, it's archaic, because lawyers live in Outlook. The next one is sort of spring cleaning, brooms, and there's a spray there and gloves and stuff like that. Yeah, you've got to keep the data up to date. Otherwise, all the lawyers are going to do is say, the data's rubbish, I'm not using it. Outlook, there you go. Yeah, they have to link with Outlook. Lawyers live in Outlook. They don't live in a database. They don't live in Excel. They're Word and Outlook, and pick up the phone. Little image with a car with a chauffeur on it. You've got to do as much for them as possible. You charge them out at a huge amount of money. Stopping that to get them to do database work is probably not a very good idea. Yeah, get someone else to do it or get the system to do it for you. There's a little, the next image on is a leaderboard. What I've found is that we can track when people are having coffees with anybody, because there's just no system is that magic that it can know what someone's done or thought about. Some pick up the phone, that's fine. Some go and have a coffee with someone. Some meet people at the train station by sheer accident and have catch-ups. That sort of thing should be captured. What I've found is when we track BD leaderboards, it's what's been added in the last 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 months, that sort of thing, is that the people at the top go, oh, this is a bit of fun, and then they quite like it. And the people at the bottom, of course, go, they're just silly. What a silly thing to do. So you just have to bear in mind that it does boost usage, but it will be, there'll be some people that love it and some people don't. Quote marks. Once you've got some good stories from some of your keenest users, use those, and anecdotes and quotes and feedback, whatever you like to call them, use those to the people that are wavering and go, do you know what? It's ever so easy to do this. This is how it's helping others. So one of the examples I gave you was a bit earlier. A partner had gone to a client and realised that another colleague had gone on a charity bike ride with them. Another one is in one of our clients, the employment team. They'd noticed that 2 of their team were contacting 2 people at the same organisation, and they wouldn't have known this without the system. And they gave a fantastic sort of quote for us to use to the other teams to get them to chivvy it up, because of course the lawyers that are using it, their biggest gripe now for me is not enough people are using it, rather than the data's rubbish and it's too complicated, because that's what we used to get. And then the last one is a little wallet with money coming out of it. We can do all you want with carrots and things like that to get users to use the system. But there are two things, a bit of a stick approach, so it's your choice. Most law firms don't like these sorts of rules, is you can review logged BD in the system in annual appraisals and reviews. And the real key one is, I was doing this, I noticed a big difference. It was about 25 years ago. I've been at Vincent Mason's as one of my in-house jobs many, many years ago. And we'd implemented the CRM system. And we were looking at sort of levels of average, okay, nothing to shout out about, levels of logged BD. And then one month, it just shot up and then carried on. And we thought, oh, haven't we done well? No, what had happened is that one of the teams had said, right, unless you put a corresponding BD note into the system, you're not getting your expenses back from when you visit the client, so the sandwich or the train fare or the taxi ride and stuff like that. Hey, presto, straight away, and then everybody gets to understand what's going on with the contact. Maintenance. It's really unfortunate, but you buy one of these tools, and that's not your last expense or bit of hassle. Okay. When you buy them, it's a never-ending job. It doesn't look after itself. We've talked about the data, but of course, there's continual training. So one of the clients I went to, they had a onboarding training session for new people on the system. That's it. That's all they had. Well, they've been shown it was 2 hours of work and all that sort of stuff. Nobody ever remembered it because it was far too complicated. Most people are not database experts. Okay, so if you show them 200 things or 20 things, they're not going to remember many. So what I suggest is you have monthly regular training sessions for different types of users. So a secretary will see and receive different training than a lawyer, for example, and a junior lawyer will receive different training or need to do different things than the partner, for example. So continual training, continual data support. You've also got users going, how do I and what do I, and I've got an error here and all sorts of stuff. And going one step further than that, somebody somewhere should really be showing people or telling people what to do with the system. So a weekly BD tip or a CRM tip about how to utilize the database, not how to use it, because that would be covered in training and things like that. As an example, training for partners, show them one thing. How to utilize the information when they see it on their email. Okay. The other question for them is, how do you log BD? You get your PA to do it or your secretary to do it. That's it. There's one thing. Just look at the information and then they get all of their team to bolt things into it and they get the update. Okay. Give them tips. Okay, not the how-to, how to add a contact and that sort of stuff. The system should do that for them already. It's just, what do you need to do with the information that you see? So, for example, when you see your weekly update and it shows you that one of your other colleagues is meeting the same person that you know, why not pick up the phone or drop your colleague an email and say, we seem to be dealing with the same person. How can we help each other? Or if you see that one of your contacts has booked onto a webinar on one of your weekly alerts, pick up the phone, drop them an email and say, well, I've just noticed that you've booked onto XYZ webinar. Why don't I join it as well? And I'll call you afterwards. Really good excuses to get in touch with the contact and impress them. Okay. And last slide just about me, so you don't have to read that now. I will circulate the slides. I will circulate the recording of this demonstration, but I hope you found that a useful half an hour of your time. Thank you very much. My name is Simon McNidder. I really hope you found that useful. Get in touch if you have questions. I'm more than happy to answer anything you have. But thank you very much.